All right, it's so great to be here. Sarah Mann and I are presenting about emotional well-being. So finding your child's happy during this time. I'm CJ Rice and I'm a member of the Prevent Suicide Hawaii Task Force. I also am a youth mental health first aid instructor and work for the Hawaii Department of Education in the state office. And Sarah?
Thanks, CJ. It's so nice to be here. I am a parent of 3 teenagers, and my middle child, my daughter, who's 16, has autism, and I am also a teacher and an autism activist, advocate, both. So it's so nice to be here, and thanks so much, CJ.
Great, great. Well, we have a lot we want to present and a lot of resources for you as parents and family members. So we're going to talk about emotional well-being and what that means. And then what are the risk and protective factors when we, are trying to help our own children? And how do we build that sense of resiliency? During these times, we also want to know what are these signs of anxiety or signs of depression? What are signs of crisis, and what are some resources out there to help us and to support us as parents? And to help our own children. And then most important of all, self-care. It's important that we take care of self in order to help others. So here we go.
Excellent. Thanks, CJ. A safe space. It's so important to make sure you have a safe space for your family. The first few months were really kind of a learning curve for us, all being home, and my daughter with autism suddenly had no services and her school was closed. So we really needed to create a comfortable environment for her and my 2 sons, who do not have autism, but here we are all at home. So we had nice playlists and we had music going, and we, walked around our neighborhood and created a safe space, within these new kind of COVID times. And so that was really important for our family. And I think if families make sure to, have that space also emotionally, what's going on here, and, making sure you limit the media use, because it was, these are uncertain times, a little scary. And so make sure your kids can talk about it in a safe space that is comfortable and with good music and open communication.
That's great, Sarah. It's so true. I know my neighbor, I think in 5 years, I never saw the family getting together like outdoors in the backyard. And since this time, every single day, they're doing exercises together or activities together. So again, using that positive and creating that safe space.
Right.
Well, we're into, I can't believe, the school year and well into the fall now. And so also use those resources that are available at school or what's happening, even if there's teaching completely virtually, online or distance learning. Know that most of the schools have a social emotional learning program. So one of my favorites is Choose Love, or I know some of the schools like Lokilani on Maui has done Choose Aloha. So those type of social emotional learning programs help give that foundation and support. Another good one is to know we have the HA, right? Nahopena Eau. And that's another one about, is my child and our family, do we have that wholeness, that whole well-being? Does my child have that sense of belonging? Do they have that sense of responsibility, that looking for excellence, that sense of aloha or unconditional love, that total well-being, and then that sense of place. So again, that's another support system. The Lokahi Wheel, some of you might have remembered this. Kamehameha Schools made the Lokahi Wheel many, many years ago. I think back in the 70s, I'm trying to think. But again, it's looking at that whole well-being for our child. So it's not just looking at the academics or the mind, it's looking at what's happening emotionally. Is there physical exercise happening with the body, our spirituality, our family values and responsibility? So again, another great resource. We want those resources in place because we deal with risk factors, but the most important thing is also protective factors.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. Yes, the environment, the support, the behaviors, these are all important things. Like CJ's saying with the Lokahi wheel, and really making sure you always have perspective and kind of, I always like to say, kind of a drone look at how everyone's doing, not just academics. It's emotional, social. Do you have a safe environment? What is your environment like? As CJ said, you've seen your neighbors out more. We've been going on walks once. We try to do twice a day, and just really building the community. The positive side of this is we've met neighbors that we never knew existed, and we've lived here 10 years. So making sure your entire environment is really solid. Supports. What supports do you need in place? Mental health supports are so important. Family support. You're not seeing the family you usually do. Do you have Zoom calls set up for those who are not nearby? Things like that. And behaviors, whether the kids are neurotypical, whether they have a disability, what are the behaviors that are different now that things look so different? And then what support and protective factors, do you have in place for that? And making sure you reach out if things need help. If you need help, it takes a village, and that's why we're all here to help each other during this time.
That's great, Sarah. You're so right. I know many families, including myself, where it's become Zoom family time, not only in Hawaii, but family members and friends that are on the, continental US, on the mainland, and in other countries. So
Right.
again, what are those protective factors? We know with risk factors or the stress of the pandemic, how can we include those protective factors? One of my favorite things when I look at how can I support youth, my own children, well, they're in their 30s now, but my own children as well as the youth of Hawaii, is a Kauai longitudinal study. And it's actually one of the top studies in resiliency in the world. And it happened right here on the island of Kauai. And it's about we know resiliency is that ability to bounce back. Like when something goes wrong or we're feeling down, that ability to bounce back in situations. And they had a study back in the 50s where they looked at children being born, babies being born in Kauai, and they said this group of children have great support system, things look well, and then this group of children being born maybe have some risk factors in the environment or things like that. And every year they did a questionnaire with the parents and then the children as soon as they were old enough for like 30, 40 years. And they found that for that group that had everything against them, all sorts of risk factors, of course, there are ones that have problems and issues with relationships or school or academics, but there was a group that was very successful. And they thought, what made these children so successful when they had everything kind of against them as far as risk factors? And they found that there were 4 main protective factors, but we like to talk about the 2 main ones that we as parents especially can make a difference. And that is my Hawaii Youth Mental Health First Aid instructors named it, actually, our ones in Hilo named it, Who's Your Mama? So I want you to think about, again, mama, a meaningful adult and meaningful activity. So again, ask your children, ask them, sometimes it's us, sometimes it's their auntie or someone else. Like, who is someone you can talk to? Who's a meaningful adult at home? Who's a meaningful, and what's a meaningful activity? So here during this time of the pandemic, right? If their meaningful activity has been taken away, let's say they're a softball player, or let's say they like chess or board games or whatever it may be, have we replaced that meaningful activity that can be with another one? And then ask them too, during this virtual world of education, it's still virtual, but ask them, who's a meaningful adult at school that you're connecting with? You know, who makes a difference? Who are you checking in every day with at school? And then also, what's a meaningful activity? A lot of things are still happening with schools, student government and things. They're putting things online. They're still having, you know, dress it, if it's Spirit Week, you know, dress in your pajamas day, or, you know, dress with your favorite t-shirt or things like that. So check in with your students, your children, and the school on what are the activities happening, even if they're virtually, because you want to keep your child involved.
Thanks, CJ. Okay, so what are some of these signs of anxiety in our kids? And it's important to recognize them, and that this is all building from, you know, creating a safe space. And seeking reassurance often. Just if you have an open and safe environment where kids can really share, you know, just constantly reminding them, you know, that they're okay, because I think kids who are stressed out need that. You know, they need reassurance, and there may be issues with sleeping. Um, I know with my daughter, she used to get up a lot in the middle of the night, and so during the pandemic, I've seen my sons here and there up, you know, and what are they just going to the bathroom, or are they just, do they have other issues, you know, that they're up and they're stewing. So if you know, as a parent, recognizing those issues with sleep, physical symptoms like headaches or stomach aches, is the stress manifesting itself physically? And be sure, you know, to see, be aware of that. Tantrums or meltdowns, you know, and depending on the age of the kids, these kind of look, you know, when they're younger, you know what a tantrum, or, you know, looks like. But older kids, when they're stressed out, I know my kids, my sons who are online, sometimes they're just like, oh, I'm just over this. I just want to see my friends, you know, I'm tired of this, you know, and they just, you know, and as a teacher, you know, on the other side of the screen, it's so hard, you know, it's just really hard to engage with the kids, you know, through a computer. So, you know, people kind of have their different levels of struggling with this pandemic. So just being aware of those signs, recognizing the anxiety, and being able to talk about it in a safe space. Whatever the age of the kids, you know, they may be reluctant to separate from parents. And what does that look like? Because their world looks so different now, and they just are more comfortable at home and closer with the parents. Some OCD may be happening, you know, repetition of thoughts and actions that may be more prevalent now that we are in a pandemic. So being aware of that. And then also being afraid of making a mistake or being, you know, embarrassed. So that's something that you want to be aware of, and make, you know, I always remind my kids, you know, some of the greatest lessons learned are from failures, you know, from making mistakes. That's where you learn. You take risks, you make mistakes, and then you learn from them. So just being there for them during, you know, all this anxiety, which is prevalent. You know, a lot of people say that a theme of 2020 is, or the only thing we can rely on is uncertainty, you know, this year. And just being there and loving on our kids and being there and, you know, reminding them that, you know, we're all in it together. We're going to be okay. So the ways to manage your child's anxiety: listen to them and check in with them often. I always do these emotional temperature checks, you know, kind of, how are you doing? How's everyone doing? Make sure, you know, there's a routine, because I know in March for us, it shifted a lot. So you kind of, you know, there was a month or two of wow, what's this going to look like? And then comes summer, you have to create a routine, because otherwise, things can really spiral. Again, look for signs of anxiety, which we just spoke about, and be aware of those. Teach coping skills. Um, there's all kinds of things you can do to cope. And CJ shared the Lokahi wheel, and looking at the various forms of the whole person. And I think one thing we try to do is look at the breath, just when I see everyone's kind of spinning and doing their thing, we just all do some nice deep conscious breaths, and that's great. So little things that you can do to cope with this, and focus on doable tasks. What are those? What are some, when things seem so overwhelming and you don't know where to start? What are a few things that you can do together to get through what you need to get through? Encourage positive thinking. Ooh, back to limiting media and the stress of hearing the numbers increase, all that kind of stuff. Just say, you know what, let's focus on, this is more family time together, and we're really able to really spend this time together, which is great. And staying connected with family and friends. Like CJ was saying, with, this way you can really connect with people via Zoom that otherwise you were just maybe here and there talking on the phone or seeing at holidays. Now, I know with my family, we have a Sunday Zoom call, and we have some people in the Midwest. My younger brother and his family live in Central America, and it's just, you can really connect. So that's a positive thing, and there we all are in our screens, but that's working for us right now. And if things are at a place where it's really challenging, seeking professional help, just making sure um, you get that support, and don't wait till it's too late. So that's really important.
Thank you,
CJ.
Sarah. Yes, actually in the office, because we have some teleworking and some here, and I'm pretty well here every day at the state office. And the secretaries and clerical have their 12:30 now for 10 minutes, like the workout,
Yeah.
so we're on there. So I thought, I can't sit at my desk for 10 hours a day. So putting those
No.
little things in, it just needs to be 5 or 10 minutes. You're so right. And create a routine. We know those of us that are working from home, and your children are at home, the refrigerator has become the new whiteboard, right? So having all of everyone's schedule and what they're
Yeah,
doing.
that's
So
right.
again,
Yeah.
establishing those new routines
Mm-hmm.
are great. Thank you, Sarah. That's great.
Sure.
We're going to
Thank you.
focus too a little bit, because it's, what if my child, that concern, what if they really are showing that anxiety to an extreme, or those feelings of depression, or how do I notice if they might be suicidal? So just a few things to consider. First of all, always take immediate action, and I'll tell you the resources and how to do that. If you have anyone in your family member or friends, not only just children, but if they're threatening to harm self or kill oneself, if they're looking for ways or have access to medications or things, or if they're talking or writing about it a lot. I know, like Sarah said, as a teacher, if you're teaching language arts and that comes up in their creative writing, it's important to be aware of that. Areas for concern. So if you notice that they're having difficulty with this adjustment with work and school, if they start to say, oh, I'm just learning virtually, I don't need to get dressed up, or, they're not, again, that appearance or hygiene doesn't matter as much. If you see them withdrawing from activities or family and friends, even establishing these new routines. Also know that a sudden improvement in mood or after being withdrawn can be a sign of concern. So in other words, any type of big change in emotion, if they feel uncontrollable, if they have those feelings of rage or hopelessness or anger, like Sarah said, her sons might get, oh, I'm tired of this. But, if it's building up, we want to be aware. If they're kind of don't care about their possessions or giving prized things away, if if substance abuse happens, if they're unable to sleep or sleep too much. So those extremes we want to be aware of. And we want to realize that most people who die by suicide do communicate their plans in advance. It's just very subtle. So again, it's something, and again, not just only for our children or family members, but our friends and people in the community. We just kind of want to be the ears and the eyes as far as how are people doing. The bottom line though is this different for this person? So I have a relative, and they're always kind of a downer, you know, that's their personality. So actually, if they were like super positive, like CJ is, I'm like, okay, what's wrong? You know, so it's again, looking at what's a change for them. And that's often the indicator. If my child's been behaving as they always have, great. But if there is that change in behavior, we want to be aware of. What are some resources for this time? There are great resources available. Number one, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Anyone can call at any time, and they're actually Congress is going to change it from that long number to 988. So I think it's about time that it was a short number, if I'm in crisis, to have an easy number to call. Family members, I always encourage, call the crisis line of Hawaii at any time, just to even ask questions in general, signs and symptoms, things like that. Or I can also call if I'm in crisis myself. A great thing for children, because they don't like to talk on the phone. I know, especially teenagers, they'll rather text. It's a safer kind of environment for them. Know that the crisis text line is available to everyone in the United States. For here in Hawaii, we just text 741-741 and then just text aloha, and know that on the other side of that text is a crisis counselor. So again, adults, youth can use this at any time. I've had where someone is woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're anxious and they don't want to wake up a family member. And so they text 741-741, text aloha, and there's a crisis counselor on the other side of that line. So know that that's available. The Trevor Project also, if there's LGBTQ issues and those signs of depression or anxiety about that, there's that number. So know those resources are available to all of us. Also, just in general, if you say, okay, my child is feeling, maybe showing some signs of anxiety or depression that's over and above this pandemic, know that you can have a wellness check. You can make a doctor's appointment. They have universal screeners there, like Queen's Hospital and things like that. That's an entry level. There's the free health hotline for DOE students. Hawaii Keiki has that during the day and they'll refer for telehealth for school-based behavioral health services to help youth. The crisis text line I mentioned. Also, there's a parent line, provides free parent information and advice. Mental Health America Hawaii, if you look on their website, they have great resources for family members as far as that. And the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that's nicknamed NAMI, have great supports for family members and youth and adults that deal with mental illness. So a lot of great resources. Also know that our local partners, Prevent Suicide Hawaii Task Force, we have them all over the state. They had Suicide Prevention Month was September, but we had a lot of events in October, the Out of the Darkness Walk. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, we had also our Survivors of Suicide Loss International Day. Beautiful coming together of people just supporting each other was actually last weekend. So there's a lot of resources to reach out to. Also, as a family member and as an adult and as a parent, what are some things I can do if I want to learn more, if I want to help more? So Safe Talk, that's a training that's free. These are all free. for suicide prevention. Connection is more, connect is good for like educators like Sarah and myself as far as how to connect in education setting. Mental Health America has youth suicide and bullying prevention training open to all community members, all schools, all families. And then Youth Mental Health First Aid, I teach, it's a full day. It goes through those signs and symptoms in more detail. And then Assist training is more for those mental health professionals. So there's a lot of resources out there. And we'll make available, just to let you know, these resources we'll have available as far as Hawaii Keiki hotline, telehealth hotlines, and then the general resources that you see on this slide. But one of the most important resources for our own children are ourselves. So that self-care is, this is my favorite slide, Sarah, as you know, this is the most vital thing for us as parents.
It is so crucial. Thanks, CJ. As a special needs mom, I think I've heard every metaphor in the book. You can't pour from an empty cup. Put on your oxygen mask before those around you, all of them, right, CJ? So, but it's important for everybody, everyone. So ask for help and accept it, okay? Really, you know, people want to help you, take them up on it. And like I always say, it takes a village. So, and talk to others, talk to friends, family, you know, if you have a psychologist, whatever support you need to really make sure you're okay during this time. Get adequate rest. It's not, you know, a badge of honor to say, I only sleep 4 hours a night. Everyone should have, I think, what is it? No less than 7, no more than 9, you know? So that's, try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's really important, and good rest, because it's just important to have really good, solid REM to be able to do everything you need to do during this time. Drink a lot of water, okay? I always have my water bottle with me, and try to make sure my kids have water, and drink a lot of it. Just stand by the sink and just, I always try to chug a glass if I'm, you know, because if you have headaches, it's often you're dehydrated, things like that. As I'm about to say, watch your caffeine intake. You know, I drink a lot of coffee, but I also try to drink a lot of water with that. And be careful of it. You know, sometimes you can have too much, and so be careful of your caffeine intake. Exercise, you know, have fun with it. Like I said, we've been, you know, walking around the neighborhood once or twice a day, meeting new people who, you know, we all talk about, we just never used to take walks like this because my sons were playing basketball. You know, Zoe was doing her thing. I would do my yoga in a studio, you know, but now we're all walking together. And so have fun with it. Or like CJ said, just in the middle of the day, get up and do something for 10 minutes, you know, that's active, and move around, put on some fun music and do a little dance, you know, whatever you need to do to move, because that's so important. And use relaxation techniques, whatever it may be. There's some really cool apps out there. Calm is a great app, you know, and anything to be able to relax, take care of yourself, you know, do some deep conscious breathing on your own or as a family, to really bring yourself to a place of calm where you need to be, so you're not fight or flight, and you're not, you know, spinning, which can happen so easily these days. So use relaxation techniques and relax, and together, you know, you'll get through this. Everyone will get through this because we're all in it together. And you know, thanks to all these great resources that CJ and Spin is putting out there, you know, we're going to get through this together, and in a good way, and grow from this.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I know Susan Rocco is here as well, that the three of us can attest to that during this time, we've all asked for help. We've all gotten and asking for help and that support, because it's a support system that creates that safety net, that sense of ohana, that Hawaii that we're known for. And so really important, don't be afraid to ask for help, because finding your child's happy is finding your happy.
Yes.
So that's so important. So we want to thank everybody. I thank everyone that participated in Unity Day and wore orange nationally for preventing bullying. I know there are lots of pictures out there. I know Spin, everyone wore your orange shirt. Like today, Sarah and Susan have their Spin shirt on.
Yay.
So we'd just like to say thank you so much, and mahalo. And any questions?
Yay.
Well, you two have done such a fabulous job of covering this issue so sensitively that most of the questions on our list from our audience have been answered, but let me just ask you one or two. Sarah, here's one from a mom that says, I'm having a difficult time recognizing signs in my child due to my own signs. How do I get help?
Oh, wow. This is back to our last slide. I know that space where you're maybe struggling so much that you can't see it in someone else because you have it, right? Maybe you, it sounds like I would suggest reaching out for help and getting support, like a psychologist, and mental support, emotional support, and then just check off the list. Am I drinking enough water? Am I exercising enough? Am I breathing okay? Something so basic, but it's, a lot of us don't even breathe correctly, especially when we're in a fight or flight state. So really go through the checklist that CJ has, that we have on this presentation, because it covers everything, like the Lokahi wheel and the comprehensive look at self-care. So I would do that, really go through that whole checklist.
And that's a great point too, is those, kind of separate out, okay, my self-care and addressing my feelings and what are happening as a parent. And then looking at that and how our telehealth, we have free telehealth services through Department of Health, the Family Wellness Center, things like that, and Family Guidance Center. And then look at, okay, my child, total well-being, what are the signs and symptoms that they have? Okay, maybe a pediatrician's appointment, what are the resources at school, things like that. And then the third you can look at is the family as a whole, our Ohana as a whole. How is that? What can we instill and help support the family as a whole? So looking at it kind of in those, that's what I've had to do actually during the pandemic. And it's really made a difference. And it's really helped support the family members, including myself.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Thank you, CJ.
CJ, this sounds like it's coming from a helping professional. The question is, how do you address teaching and educating multi-ethnic families like Filipino and Micronesians about mental health, especially when talking about suicide or depression brings shame to the family? Is it not a popular subject in these types of families? Or it is not a popular subject, but it's also never addressed in the home by the parents. What are your thoughts or suggestions?
That's a great point. In Hawaii especially, we have that, it's about getting rid of that stigma, right? Because growing up in Hawaii, it was always about, oh, we don't want to shame the family. We're not going to talk about it. If you're having a hard time, we're just not going to talk about it. So knowing culturally that is out there. And so the whole thing is to getting rid of that stigma. So especially as an educator, it's like saying, no, we're all unique. We're all human. We all have emotions, that it's okay. It's okay if we feel anxious or sad. It's okay to talk about it, that we all go through hard times. We all go through grieving. And really it's about, again, getting rid of that stigma. It's okay to ask for help. Some of the most successful people, why are they so successful? As Sarah said, that, they went through, making mistakes or failure. They're successful because they asked for help, because they were honest about their feelings. things like that. So it's getting rid of that stigma is huge. That's a great question.
So as a wrap up,
Great.
what is your one favorite coping technique? I know mine is a glass of wine. How about you ladies?
Can I have two? Because I want to have a glass of wine with Susan Rocco and CJ. So that for fun stuff and also coping. But I have to say, taking a walk with my family, because we never did that. Wasn't that terrible? And it took COVID to go walk it, and it's so nice. And we come back from, it's like a 15-minute walk. It's not that big, but it's lovely, and we just all feel better. So getting outside, getting off the screen, and taking a nice walk.
Mine, as you know, Susan, I'm so grateful because the state of Hawaii, it's in our constitution that we have the right to be in the ocean, right? Because culturally, the Hawaiian culture, so surfing was always allowed because we have social distancing in surfing. You're never that close. You're in the ocean. And so surfing for me is my self-care. But I must admit, I've had family members and friends that have taken up the sport of surfing because it's allowed and it's safe, and it's changed their life. It's changed their life in the last 4 months. They said they've never felt better. So it's looking in this pandemic, this time of pandemic, how can, as Sarah said, and Susan, how can we actually create those routines and those wonderful connections with our family and friends? How can we make those connections with the school? Even though it's virtually, some of the connections are even stronger than they've ever been before with parents and school.
Yep.
So
true.
Creating that at this time. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sarah, you're amazing. And thank you, Susan, for having us at SVIN.
Yeah. I'm excited to have a glass of wine with you ladies someday soon.